This conference will now be recorded.
Live. Right, this one was.
Jail last time for that.
Okay, if everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll sit here every time, Daryl. Welcome, everyone.
3 times a day.
Call the meeting to order. The first item is to approve the agenda. Is there any changes, Bruce?
I know no change.
Motion approved. As presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Do we have any conflicts, Randy?
Mr. Chairman, I have a possible conflict with a spearfish plat, gangler plat.
Okay.
And I also want to make it known that I did speak with the rezone applicant Backens, called me and asked me some questions about the process and also the development plan. Which one is it? Lighthouse Construction called me with some questions about process, so I did speak to them outside the meeting.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. We need approval of the meeting minutes from April 11th.
I move to approve
Second.
well, I'm not there yet. We got a couple sets of meetings. The best meetings this month to date, commission meeting minutes from April 11th, and also the board equalization minutes. Or we wait until they're completely done? Okay.
I'll second that. Best minutes in the county.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the best minutes in the state. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
It's better and better. I said, this month you look at the county.
Bills. It's a pleasure on the bills.
Telephone.
My questions have been answered.
Mine has been answered. I have a question. On page 8, it's bill number 1394 for Eagle Engraving Sheriff Equipment, $1,263.
Commendation bars and sliders. I think that's things for, I think they put patches on their arms. Is that what they're?
No, it's part of a employee retention plan. We started to recognize people for meritorious service.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anything further?
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Second. Yeah, we have a motion and
You
a second
said-
to allow the bills. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Both motion carried. It's done. Travel requests.
I have one travel request, Chairman. It's for Jamie Olson to travel to Nashville Tennessee for a Central Square Engage 2023. She will be leaving on June 4th and coming back on June 8th.
I want to go.
Budgeted.
Yes, sir.
Motion approved.
Have you used the company before? Central Square Engage?
Yeah, they are, that's the company, that's our,
Thank you. Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the travel request. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Personnel.
Oh, that travel request.
Oh, we're on personnel now.
Okay. I have a step raise for Crystal Stalkin, hired on March 9th of 2016. going to a auditor, county employee 2, grade 3, base pay of $21.96, effective April 23rd of 2023.
Mr. Chairman, should we call her in and interrogate her a little bit? Move to approve as presented.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Further discussion?
That's planned, budgeted stuff. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Zachary?
Zachary Locksmith, new hire, correction officer 1, grade 1, base pay of $21.23. Zachary will be a part-time fill-in employee effective April 25th.
Move approval.
Second for discussion.
Okay,
Was this the one that was in the paper the other day? I saw there was an ad for last week. There was an ad for the sheriff's department. in the paper.
I think that ad was for them. This is for October.
I don't remember doing.
Yeah, it was a deputy. It's a replacement, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? We don't need to do approval for replacement. Only for- Thank you.
okay. Everyone in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then I have 3 volunteer firefighters for the Brownsville Fire Department for work comp insurance purposes. It's Todd Hansen, Myrna Beck, and David Moss.
Motion. Second. Add their name in the minute.
Okay, we have a motion and a second
This is
for
to put their name
approval
in
of
the
Yep, so
Beth
something
Fireman.
happens,
All
they
those in
have
favor
covered.
of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Order approving minor adjustment to Cary Valley Road District.
Yes, we have an order from them with minor adjustments to their boundaries. It is a resolution that needs to be signed by the board. Mike Hale is also here if you have any questions for him as to the annexation. We do have letters from all of the landowners that are being annexed in my packet here. They've all signed it. Yes, I do.
All consented, right?
They've all consented to the annexation. That's the
Which ones are annexed? This, all
The
of them?
the highlighted ones, yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
Mike, I think there are 3 different roads that you're annexing in, is that correct?
Correct.
So the map that you're looking at there, Commissioner Diver and Flanagan are looking at, you can see the 3 different areas there.
Question for legal counsel.
Go ahead.
They don't describe the roads in here, just the adjacent tracks.
Yeah, I don't know that they're required to. They're depicting the areas that are being annexed in.
And this is a purely ministerial duty. We can't actually not sign this, correct? Under statute, they bring it to us, we just sign through. Most allow the chairman to sign.
Okay, I'll second it for further discussion. Go ahead, Lynn.
Just to clarity for legal counsel, how do we determine minor adjustment and major?
It's not defined by statute. We don't want to
It's
see
a
it.
cooperative effort rather than maybe not cooperative.
Well, so I think the part in my mind that helps us that's instructive is that they've all agreed to this. And so I think Mike would explain that there are 1 or 2 that are not going to agree because maybe they don't have building rights or something. They have reasons maybe that they're not going to accept it being brought in. But generally speaking, you're getting the consent of 99% of the folks in that area. Is that fair?
We have got those last 2 meetings, and they're in the past.
Okay, they're
Okay.
here. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Very good.
We have
Awesome.
100% now.
So is Gold Pan Trail already in this side?
Gold Pan Trip, nope, is not.
So they're taxing needs.
Okay,
Yeah, they're trying to apply this retroactively. It would be much obviously easier to have done it from the get-go.
all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Brett, you've got an abatement you want to present it for us?
Yeah. So this abatement is for a person who was brought up at county boards, the veterans exemption, and that was not the correct, venue to do it in. So we brought it, we're going to hear as an abatement for Tammy Wagendorf. And this would be for, I'm not sure, this is a good question. I was just talking to Deb Tritle. They did buy it in June of 22. And of course, at closing, they were probably giving credit for half the year. right? So they did get the taxes for 2023, but they would have credit for half the year. So I believe this is going to be for taxes 2024. We'd apply the veterans exemption. I don't think we could do it when they didn't really own it for half the year. You know what I mean?
Okay, Bruce?
So Brett, these are the folks, just to remind everybody, that missed the deadline to make the application. And so they should have
Yes.
applied last year in 2022, right?
No, it would have been applied for taxes 2024. If they would have applied November 22, it'd be for taxes 2024.
This was a couple that was on crutches.
Yeah, she was in crutches and they missed the deadline.
So-
So
The deadline was 2020, was last year, right?
November 1st of 2022.
Okay, and so for the,
Yeah.
if they would have made that deadline, what would be the period that the veterans exemption would have applied for?
For 2024, taxes
2024.
2024.
And so that's the question then
Yeah.
So they're already eligible for 2025 because they've
Yes.
registered. So the question then is, for what period, if any, of 2024 are they eligible for a veterans exemption, right?
The whole, yeah.
So that's the kind of the issue, isn't it? Is it a kind of a yes/no issue in terms,
Well-
rather than a monthly issue?
You know, there is in codified law, it says that any veteran who would otherwise qualify for the exemption that fails to comply with the application deadline may petition the Board of County Commissioners to recalculate the taxes based upon the owner occupied classification and this exemption. So, and the veterans exemption and abate the taxes. So the commissioner, you guys have the option to do that. So it is in law that you can do that. And that's what she's applying for.
So this is a yes/no question, not a yes plus a term of months, right?
That's correct.
So it's just a yes/no question.
I believe so.
I'm trying to make it simple.
Yeah, sorry.
And the
You've
document
confused
defines that, right dates and everything.
Well, so the originally you could say, so maybe they were eligible for the veterans exemption for a part of the year that they owned it.
Right.
And so, but that's not what we're
But
talking
in theory,
about.
when they close, those taxes are paid by someone.
Yeah,
At
they were
closing.
given credit for part of it, yeah.
So I think
So
So I don't think we
are we
can.
refunding them someone else's money?
No, this would be for totally the time they would normally pay taxes, which would be in 2024, for a whole year.
I
Yep.
move to approve the abatement for 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have any further discussion?
Yeah.
Richard?
That was probably $150,000 or
That's-
the exempt.
Yes, so it would be taken off the value,
Yeah.
and the taxes recalculated based on that. Yes.
We've done that before to another guy. He was a day or two short there and he had to wait a whole year to be in compliance.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval for 24. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, Brett.
Sheriff, I think it's your opportunity to come up and roll us through the mud.
Good morning. Your committee for the Public Safety and Services Center continues to meet meeting tomorrow. I think one more before the week is over. Presently, I think things are going very well, and RCS would echo that. They have poured the balance of the magistrate court floor, the pipe chase, 2 different pipe chases are poured, and a number of other areas central to the permanent housing. And they started setting beams and steel posts last week.
I see you got a big crane up there.
Yep, they're projecting the likelihood of starting to have the cells, prefabricated cells, arrive June 15th, thereabouts. So that's all I have.
under the sheriff's time, because it's germane to the project, I also have on there the rapid fire protection annual fire inspection agreement and alarm inspection agreement. And Tim is here to talk about those things. And just by way of background, I think that rapid fire has been contracted by RCS to install those items in the project. And so and Tim will correct me if I'm wrong, they have presented a maintenance agreement for inspections of the equipment that they're going to install going forward. And so it wouldn't necessarily have to be them, but they are the ones that are installing it. And with that, I defer to Tim for any other clarifications or corrections.
Okay, you have anything to add, sir?
No, not really. It's just the standard inspections like we talked the other day. It does not include the Ansel system for the hood in the jail kitchen.
That'll be every 6 months. I
Yeah.
know all about that one.
But their price is right in line with Western states that we have done here. It's pretty standard stuff. It's just, it's required, so you can't really not do it. $5,000 a year is right in the ballpark, and it's a 3-year contract, I think. So if we don't like them after 3 years, we can change if we want. But yeah, pretty standard stuff, really.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, at your pleasure, the request be to authorize the auditor to sign the agreement.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second it, and then further discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner Sleep.
I was wondering, how does the sprinkler system fit in at this time of construction? Is that the pipes
Plumbing?
going up there? No upward construction line. Didn't know how that fit in now.
And I think that it's got to be a plumbing.
It'd be inline water lines. It'd be in the building the foundation,
Just the water
building
lines.
the flooring, I'm sure.
Okay, ready to adjust
I
something?
mean, it's
Ted?
gonna, to state with this particular contract, this contract does not come into place until after the construction of the building is complete and then a year after that. So this is locking in that price. So this could be not utilized until 2024, 25, whenever the building is
I
done.
see.
Then it's a year, then this starts. This is just giving us a good price for now, so we can
Good.
have it for the next 3 years after that. So it'll be 25, 26, 27.
I didn't know how you sprinkled the
Yeah.
building. It wasn't built.
And no, this is just the inspection.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Flanagan.
Does this include current inspections of those systems, or are we to have a contract with someone else on those current? Of this building and that building?
Yeah,
Yeah, with somebody else, with Western states. But I figured we would go with rapid fire since they're installing it.
Have them install their own, or inspect their own work?
It's a racket, but after 3 years, or after, there'll be a 1-year warranty, but then after 3 years, we can get rid of them, like I said, higher Western states. But yeah, it's a racket for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion before us will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Sheriff.
Oh, I had a question for Sheriff Dean, if I may. On Sunday morning, there was a cyclist race. It went down
Mineral
Place, Homestead, and the National Guard had guys out there in camo with no reflective vests, a cone about this high, and the cyclists are going through stop signs into oncoming traffic. And it was at 3 or 4 locations, and they're running stop signs, and they have no flashing, they have no vests on. I about took out 2 of the cyclists because I couldn't. There's a guy in the middle of the road. I go around him, and here the cyclists are coming right at me. And so I don't know who put that on, but it was definitely a safety hazard. And they were on county roads. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just about took out 2 of them.
Yeah, Amber, come
I
out
heard
and
he
said
did that.
Yeah. He said, but we don't want a memorial ride, is my point.
in the past, for other races, they've come in and requested permission
Right.
through the highway department and through the sheriff's office to make sure that it's properly vetted. And so I don't know who this group
And I
is.
stopped one guy and said, you need a vest on. He said, well, they're over at, he thought I wanted a vest. They're over at the Young Center. Well, it doesn't do any good.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see anything that said who it was either.
Yeah.
I'll look into it. You think it's National Guard?
Well, they were working it, so they would know who put it on.
I know it was the college.
Oh, there was a triathlon, wasn't it? It was their tryout. If it was Sunday, it was a triathlon. Yeah.
Anyway, it was unsafe.
I thought he was going to come out and do it.
Yeah.
They've done it last year.
Okay, anything further from the sheriff? Thank you. Well, we've got a public hearing at 8:25, so we're gonna take a quick little 5-minute break here so that we can be on time for the hearing.
Ooh, almost missed that. I'd like to call you again. We'll try to do 100% this time.
All right.
Sign it here.
Well, but you gotta do it in front of the notary.
Brenda, will you watch me just for a second?
He's got, I need this notarized.
And I'll probably.
And I'll print it on the front.
You know it.
Okay. Just let me sign it.
You need to notarize it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the restroom.
It's an insurance.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
I didn't know I was a friend.
What's that?
How long?
Didn't know I was a friend.
Of dad's.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Okay.
They install it and then they'll give you a price for their inspection. But the cool thing about it is they install it so they know, you know, what it is that they put in. instead of-
Well, sure. It's, you know, I can know exactly what I put into it. Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's a racket for sure. I checked their price against what we have there. It's in line with what we do. Yeah, we talked about that. Maybe they want to get other outside estimates or something. I suppose it'll have to be inspected by the city when they install it.
Yeah.
But
Well, it'd be inspected. That wouldn't either be the state insurance.
state, yeah, state, right, or state, that's what I meant.
Is this done as a change order to them? Change order?
No,
But it wasn't included in regular bid price?
no, this was an addition. Yeah, this is just an inspection, so they added it on. It's kind of a, they got you, it is, because you can't, you know, they require it, so you have to do it. Whoever you hire is up to you, but yeah, there's no getting out of it. If the place burns down and it wasn't inspected, then, you know, so yeah, it's expensive too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more than that. Get things figured out over time, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing is their price is in line, so it's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Federal assistance and equipment if it's needed immediately.
So when you.
I'll get that.
Yeah.
Signed.
Did you guys, did you do mine well that big already?
Sometime. The biggest part of it.
Hey,
How are you doing, John?
Just good. How are you?
Not too bad.
So they asked about that. Paying it. Yep.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good.
And now the lady texting me about.
It'll be mailed out today.
Yeah, a lot of lucky busy on side by side wrecks and snowmobile wrecks.
I do not. That's not a bad idea.
That's so you can look and remind yourself. Still there. And the gravel now is. You gotta stop.
I thought they said they graded up to the home state, and then they still gotta do your loop.
I think they did, maybe that, maybe he's gonna
They're
take
gonna
the
do your stuff.
gravel.
Am I still married to him? Yes, I am.
Get better at
I am.
Or you
it.
might
Get better at it or what? Somebody else. You do? No, he does pretty good.
My wife.
Yeah, Corey. Corey Hawkins, he said that they're doing a little grading today over in White area.
Oh.
Out in your area, they still have more stuff. The loop and 8:25, this is the time and place for a public hearing for resolution 2023-12. It's a supplemental budget hearing. We'll offer it to the public first. If you have any for or against this item.
Mr. Chairman, this is a follow-up to that discussion you had a couple of weeks ago when Hillary Schwab was here from Compass Point. This is facilitating that transfer.
Is there anyone in the body of the audience that would like to speak for or against this? If you do, please stand up, state your name and your address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and offer to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Levy.
this is just authorizing the payment that we approved through the supplemental budget process. Move to approve supplemental budget transfer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, I think you'll be seeing a second tranche of money coming in at some point here too, and probably for many years to come.
18.
Yeah. Do I need to sign it?
I already had you sign it.
Oh,
I
With
was
that,
thinking we heard you
Mr.
did.
Chairman.
My bad.
with that money coming in, do we have to do this every time, or can we just put it in our budget?
Well, we can do it in the budget, you bet. That way then it'll
Then we
be
won't
done.
have to do a supplemental?
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
But this
Yes.
because we already
Because-
approved the
yeah,
budget.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
okay. John, it's your time and place, sir.
We got several utility permits to take care of today, right? I think we got 5 utility permits all in the Spearfish area. The first one is Montana Dakota Utilities, and this is for a section up on the Centennial Road. It's to serve a new home site, I guess. I would recommend that we approve this 2-inch bore. It's the bore and the permit to occupy right away.
Recommend approval, you said?
I recommend you approve
Motion to
it.
follow recommendation.
Try to follow the order of the packets, by the way.
No, we didn't.
Second.
I got Heritage as my first.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Andy?
4,900 feet?
That's 4,900 feet from Highway 5. The
Oh,
bore is
okay,
under the road.
okay, so it's just across.
That's just the location.
Okay, thank you.
Just a simple bore under the road.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The next one is the Kerwin Lane. This is from Butte Electric. They're wanting to replace an overhead where Blackill's Tower and them both have an overhead line. They're wanting to replace with a underground, and they want to bore under the Kerwin Lane. And I recommend to approve that. They will remove the overhead when it's done.
Always like it better on the ground. Though.
Yes.
Motion to follow recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Andy?
In the application, it doesn't say the location, it just shows it on the map. It just says Spearfish.
Yeah, I think they had the township, the range and the section, and then Kerwin Lane, and then of course the map you see.
Kerwin Lane's not mentioned except on the map that I see.
It's
There
a
it is,
county
there
road.
it is, I found it there. Special
And this is
conditions.
right up by our shop there in Spearfish.
Okay, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The next one is on the Eden Road. I got 3 locations on one road. I don't know if you guys want to go through them one by one, or if you'd like to just tackle them all at one time. They're replacing one overhead line. They're moving the power source to the south side of Eden Road, where it will go into Meade County. And so the main line will go underground, and then the 2 existing services will also be bored underground. And again, I recommend they're going to replace the overhead, remove the overhead power. All transformers are going to be off the property, or off this right away onto the property, the private property. And I would recommend that we approve all 3 of these, unless you guys want to go one by one.
That's the 3 right in a row.
That's right.
Looking
They're within 4/10 of a mile of one another.
And right now is there 3 overheads?
There's 1 main overhead and 1 service line. This is going to be 2 service lines and 1 main, all underground. And then
So it's all going underground.
all's going to be bored. And these are all bore and occupy permits. So there's two permits. Our current permitting system doesn't address all of the issues with occupying in the board. Randy?
I have 4 on Eden Road in the packet.
This should be 3. Is permit to occupy one of them, and then the other 3 are
Utilities.
application for utilities. That's what it is.
So they have 3 and then an occupied, so there's 4 forms.
Should have been 6 because there's an occupy for each section, each location, and a 4 for
Well,
each location.
I'm trying to do them all at once, but
Okay.
since they're not numbered or anything, it's difficult to find. So I'm going to move to approve the 3 installation and 3 occupation of Eden Road.
For Butte Electric,
For Butte
the
Electric.
4 underneath. I'll second that.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We haven't done the Heritage yet.
That was the one that was on the long one. But that's what mine. I don't know. I had 2 different ones. Which one? Well, that's in.
First one on the list we hadn't done yet.
MDU was done. Yeah, we've done that already.
What do we have
It's
left?
Heritage Road, but he said it was
South Dakota Mine.
Centennial.
So that's all of them except School of Mines.
The School of Mines and Technology wants to do a campus down in the Nemo at the mine site down there, the main mine site. I met with the representatives from the School of Mine, the engineer, which was Respec, the Pete Lean people, and the National Guard. The National Guard is wanting to do this work in June, so they want to get an application for this approach. And site distance is good. It's in a great location for an approach. So they do have an easement according to the Pete Lean people and the School of Mine people to cross Pete Lean's properties. Again, I would recommend that we approve this approach.
I move we follow recommendations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second, and I had a question.
Go ahead.
Do you know, I know they're going to do a lot of work down there. Is this ever going to require a turning lane?
You know, the Nemo Road there, it's is as wide as it is in all of it. It would be a section that we'll be hopefully paving next year. You know, it's on our second phase of that Nemo project. It would require a turning lane. There's no study to indicate what their facility is going to produce for traffic. They right now it's just the first stage. You're going to get the road built in, their approach, and then a site. The National Guard is going to build their site for the building, and eventually they're taking over that whole mine, I guess. You know, as a campus, an outdoor campus.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion before us, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. What else you got, John?
We got the Vogelsong issue here with, I think we got a couple people here that live out there. They would like to address the commission. We put together kind of a loose estimate of graveling a half-mile section of road. They're wanting to improve beyond the portion that we take care of. So I think we got a couple people.
Okay, Matt, you want to come up and tell us about your request?
Okay.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Matt Hoffman, and I live at 11490 Vogelsong Road.
Thank you.
Okay. I did take some aerial pictures, or the realtor did, of the road. I'll just pass them down. Here are the 3 different ones. So, anyways, it's almost impassable this time of the year, and it's wet out. And I thought it was only 0.25, quarter of a mile.
It's just a little to the end of the property that you propose to sell. It's just a little bit over a quarter of a mile, and to the end of your property line,
We
it's
don't need
a little
that.
under a half.
We don't,
My my estimate was just an average, I just said that.
And the reason why we don't want to, we can't get in there in the springtime. So I want to put a new gate in right there at the corner of that property.
I think that was a quick 2-way.
So it's be about half of what you got figured.
Correct.
Okay, Bruce?
So if I may, I'm going to give a quick overview. So Bogason Road, I think is a county secondary road. It goes Highway 34 and it goes mostly east. There's a slight jog and it's off the section line for the majority of it from what I can tell. And then when it gets to the east, it does a slight jog to the south. I think that's on the section line and then it goes back to the east again. And I think that's on the section line.
That's correct.
And so it ends up at what, North Sale Barn Road or somewhere like that.
Crooked Oaks and then to North Sale.
And so the county maintains from 34 in about a mile. And so where the subject property is about a quarter mile past where the county stops maintenance. And I think John has a sign up there that says county maintenance ends or something to that effect on that end. Then I think there's a reciprocal sign on the other side if you were to come in on North Sale Barn Road, right?
On North Sale Barn, it says county maintenance ends, but then on Bogason, it says impassable.
So there's this stretch in between that is not maintained. Historically, we don't know that it's ever been maintained. Talk to Larry Fiero with the township. They're not interested in okaying this or being a part of it in any way. Again, from looking at the state system, it looks like it's considered to be the whole length of it is considered to be a county secondary road, although we're only maintaining part of it. I think John would explain that in the last year or two that you did improve it a little bit. You didn't put any gravel down, but you were using it as a cut across the road. Or
we gravelled the 1 mile, and that was about 3 years ago. We graded that section so we could drive our trucks across it, as a loop, so we didn't have to turn around. We've done that in the past, more than once, where we would just go in and grade it so we could use it, as our trip back to the pit.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but we're talking to Larry Fiero from the township. In his recollection, and I think he's lived out there most of his life, that it's never been improved beyond what it currently is. And so it wasn't like it was improved and then not improved. And I should add too, if I may add a little more context, I think back in, so you might ask the question, how is there a 7-acre lot in the middle of ag? And that's what I think Mr. Hoffman owns here is a 7-acre lot, right? So back in 2001, I think maybe it was Maurice, is that your father? Did a building right affidavit. So originally there was 42.25 acres. And what happened is in order to create this 7+ acre lot, they did a no build on 35.25 acres. So they actually own more property out there. So just to be clear with everybody, if and when there's ever a building permit on that 7-acre piece, unless and until it ever gets rezoned, there is no building right on the balance of that 35 acres. So, tread carefully and lightly in that regard, I would recommend. And I also provided a copy of the statute. Statute addresses this issue about a request for county to maintain the roads. That's 31.12.27.1, where it would require a petition submitted by a resident of the county, and then you would have to find that it's not only in the best interest of the county, but also in the best interest of the petitioner to enter into an agreement for maintenance. And I don't want to read the whole statute to you, but basically, the county either has to do the work or has to hire somebody else to do it, and they would require that there be an agreement in writing whereby the petitioner would, or the landowner, the beneficiary would reimburse the county, if that makes sense.
Okay. Pat, you want to finish your
So
presentation?
I'm not the only one that uses that. So like Devin Stevens uses that road right now to feed his cows. So he has to get back there. So he plows through there this time of the year, dry today. And if he can't get there with his pickup with the bale on the road, he goes with his tractor. So the road is in such a position now, the pipe is exposed. There is no material on top of the culverts. I mean, eventually somebody's gonna fall through that culvert there. I mean, it needs to be improved one way or another, whether we gravel it or not. But what's happened is you can see people are just going around it all the time. So why doesn't the county just give it back to the landowner then? Let's fence it off, shut it off. If you guys don't want to maintain it, let's close the road.
you want me to talk to that?
Sure.
I'm one that never advocates to close any road that's out there. Open to the public is open to the public. I and Commissioner Sleep in the past have had discussions about roads up in the Forest Service, how he doesn't like people molesting his cows, and I don't like to not be able to ride my dirt bike where I want to ride my dirt bike. If it's public, it's public. That's public under our jurisdiction to oversee, but not necessarily to approve. I think what you're saying about gravel and part of that, it sounds like if we're using it, there is some benefit to the county for it to be improved to some degree, but maybe not, maybe even just part of that or some of the sloppy hole places. I don't know. Our highway superintendent is much more well versed on that road. I'm not sure I've been on that one. I know the area where it is, but I don't think I've actually driven it.
In the spring.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I've been familiar with several of those roads in the past. But
Gets a little drifted too when it's.
Yeah.
well, that picture shows.
And we understand that they don't maintain it. That's not what I'm even asking. It's just, I only need a quarter of a mile. And it just needs to be, dressed up and shaped up.
Randy?
Well, when I first saw this, I really struggled with it because I have a quarter-mile road to my house that I have to maintain, but I'm not on the system. That's the significant difference here. This
And
is
it
a
ends up
secondary system.
connected to another part of the system.
But there's no residence on this 7 acres,
No,
and there historically has not been.
there hasn't been.
And the reason that you're asking for this is because the realtor is going to sell this, and it increases the value. Fair enough.
Correct.
And so we're paying to increase the value of a parcel by putting tax dollars into improving a road that only 2 people use, which really classifies as a minimum maintenance or a driveway, right?
Mr. Chairman, I think that there are a number of other residences from 34 before you get to the subject
Right,
property, but there's not anything after that to the east. as far as I recall.
Except acres.
Yes.
So it's really a driveway. May I finish?
That's fair.
So, I struggle with doing this, but I think in this case it might be merited. But do we have to build it to county specs since it's in our right of way and it's on our system? Or could we build it to the size of a driveway?
Well,
From 16 to 24 is what I'm talking about.
it's not on a section line, so, that negates us having to make it to account. That we require everybody to build the county spec on a section line.
Well, I think that's also in our right of way, and by statute, we would have right of way here. I can't remember the statute, just like we have up at the summit.
I think we have right away, and so the question would be, something less than the county secondary road standard or secondary road.
Since it's minimal maintenance.
And then one other
Is that
question.
maybe an avenue to go that route?
You could, and so we have it sort of signed that way now, and so, you could do it that way, I suppose.
One other question. Then if we do gravel this, to whatever degree, are we going to move snow off it now?
I mean, if we gravel it and somebody lives there, I mean, that's a question to you guys. You guys want to maintain this road?
Well, it's on our system.
Driveway.
But it's on our system.
Yeah, but
We don't
we don't
plow
maintain
now
that.
to get through it.
I thought you come through that way to get over to Crystal.
Not in the winter, I don't. Not with the snow.
We never plow through.
Mrs. Hoffman, did you have something you wanted to add?
Your name too, please?
I'm Jana Hoffman, 1149 Oglesman also. There's quite a few people that do use that road. The Crowleys use it all the time, going back and forth. And then you've got fishermen that use that back road to go over to Oregon. So it's more than just 2 people that use the road. And then with it being so muddy, then of course that gets onto the nice gravel because they plow through there. So that's all I want to say. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner.
So is this discussion for us to put a quarter mile of gravel on and then the landowner reimburse us for that work part? Is that what this is about? Or
Well, that would be,
Not really.
that would be what this is about.
That'd be the only way that makes sense to me, because otherwise we're putting money in your pocket to sell property.
Okay.
You see where I'm going there? It's like,
Yes, I know it.
John, what's your recommendation?
Well, I mean, we're always trying to get rid of road, and here we're taking on more road. The road does exist. It wouldn't take a lot for us to shape it up and put some gravel on it. That's not going to make it the best road in the county by any means. Beyond that, to keep it in shape, you're talking about the perpetual ownership of that road now, you know, just to gravel it and receive any kind of funding to upgrade the road, whether it be from the landowner or out of our general fund or our budget. From then on, we're gonna have to maintain this road. So that is what we need to really look at. I mean, the cheap part is the quarter of a mile of gravel. The perpetual upkeep of that road throughout the winter months and the summer months is gonna be where your real expense is.
Well, it kind of opens up a can of worms because I have a similar situation that the county only comes part of the way in and we've taken care of the rest all these years. And my worry is if we go down this road, we're gonna have a lot of other people show up wanting us to do the same on a whole bunch of other ones. And
Well, I find the uniqueness here is this is on the county system. And so really we have 2 or 3 things going on here. I don't think a lot of the other roads that are on the system, like the one you're talking about, they end there. We have a couple others that are driveways that are on the system, but I'm looking for a solution here, but I think what I would suggest is maybe we get the approach permit for where they're gonna put the approach in the 7 acres. So now we know the total distance.
I think we're dragging it out. This is how Christensen Drive discussion to me, that we just bring them down the road for a long way and then go, well, we really don't want to approve this, but now we make them do a whole bunch of work.
But my next question is, but they're gonna need an approach permit anyway.
They will.
Yeah. The other question is, this would qualify as minimum maintenance because it's
Intermittent
use.
intermittent use, I think, is the standard.
Okay. And so if it's minimum maintenance, that means we wouldn't have to do snow removal.
I think that's right.
Okay. But the value, so that's on that side of the scale. The value is having this road if we have fires. To Mr. Flanagan's statement earlier about having the access through there, it's good to have those lateral connections on your primary roads. And that's what that would allow us. If we had a prairie fire out there, we could fight it. But the county could also, with the minimum maintenance, put in gates, but not locked, right? To discourage travel.
I think there's enough usage on that road, you wouldn't want to go down that.
I would hesitate at gates. I would have to look into that. I don't know the context of that. And if I may, I should add that you can have, primary road, secondary road. You can have a minimum maintenance road, and you can have a no maintenance road. And this is sort of more minimum maintenance than no maintenance, right?
Because it has the intermediate travel.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sleep.
The more you improve a road, the more traffic is going to get in time, and this road doesn't appear to have a fence on either side of it there, so Devon's cattle go back and forth all the time.
I think it's pretty well fenced.
Yeah, it is.
It is fenced.
And so does Ken Hansen. Ken Hansen goes in there too.
Oh.
At the end, and at the same spot where we're ending this. So.
It's on the south side.
Yes, it's on the opposite side, but I just.
And they have attached to that, so they all can.
Commissioner Flanagan.
Well, to throw this out there and make Commissioner Divert's discussion a little muddier, as it were.
Good choice of words.
When you say county secondary and it's right there, I go back to every time I think about that when I think about Higgins Gulch, and we absolutely do not want to do anything past the cattle guard Higgins Gulch.
But it's not on our system.
And my understanding of the discussion was he was requesting us to gravel and it was going to be reimbursed. That may not have been what you had decided. And we were absolutely not going to take over any of that road beyond where county maintenance is currently. We were just going to approve a section of it. Or that was what the discussion was, but because we shouldn't be taking over anymore. This is a driveway. It just happens to continue through to somewhere else, which is again makes this a little more unique than a lot of other discussions we have.
Well, in the last year, we've had 2 where people have come in and wanted to improve section lines, but they weren't on our system. And we wrote agreements with them on how they could do that. And they did the improvement or will do the improvement. Is this different because it's on our system?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I can't make. Yes, there are differences, but distinguishably, no. I mean, the state statutes, seem to suggest that in this case, it would be up to them to reimburse you. Again, you can do it. It is part of the county road system, right? But you're creating value by that lot, right? I don't know. That's up to you guys to decide, you know, it doesn't.
Did you have anything to add?
I do. We had talked about this. I don't know if we ever really got to the bottom of it. You know, this is the township, and then knowing that the township wants nothing to do with it, but we don't really have a clear-cut answer to which roads are our roads. You know, we know the roads we maintain. Our agreement back in the 50s, which we've never been able to find the list of roads we agreed to take. So the list of roads we have are the roads that we maintain. If this is a section of road that we don't maintain, I think we were at kind of a standstill of, is it our road or is it the township's?
It is a fault, St. Ange Township.
Yeah. So I've been telling everybody we need to kind of keep the township supervisors in the loop a little bit, which Bruce has talked to, met with them. They want no part of it. They've got no funding.
Would they supersede us in this discussion?
Well, no, I don't think so. Brandon brings up a good point. So I think as part of that agreement that we're receiving all of their secondary road money. They're collecting some money to maintain the roads in St. Ange proper, right? And so arguably everything else outside, I guess, is probably ours. There is no list of what we originally assumed. I don't know that any part of the system has ever been greater than what it was originally or retracted. It appears to be exactly what it was more or less back then, right? And again, I would add that this road is on the state system as a county road. So,
Okay, Matt, I'm gonna have you go ahead and finish up if you've got anything to add to this, and then we'll let the board have further discussion.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Shannon got the checkbook?
Well, I guess that should be my question is if the county doesn't want or won't take care of it, then are we personally allowed to go in there and put some gravel in it, dress it up? I mean, somebody's got to.
Well, that's the next part.
We're gonna get to that, I think.
What are their options? That's
Yeah,
what, that's,
what are
that's where we
our
need to go right now. is
Okay,
figure
let's
out
go
what
to those
those
options.
Well, before we go to the options, I just want to, if we check the state database, they have attributes on when these roads were taken on by the county, by official acts. It goes back in the 30s and 40s. This one may have one, but you have to get the right guy to get that information.
I tried to look it up.
And then if we look at the town, you can't look it up yourself. You have to call the guy because the database that's live won't give it to you. The other thing is the township, not only do we maintain the ones in town, I think we also touch on some culverts for them that are in the township that are on our county roads. So we've had that cooperative effort for years, if I recall. So, so I think since they're giving us the money, I think that's why we maintain their roads. So now moving into the new subject, I think we have a lot of options. I think we have an option to have the landowners participate in the improvement, and we have the option not to do snow removal.
John, what was your estimate?
Well, my estimate again was for a half a mile, and it was for $34,236.40, and that was for just the shaping of the road, reestablishing ditch lines, and a 6-inch lift of gravel because there's no current cover now. Okay? So we're going to need more gravel than normal. This will be just like what we did on the Molar. But this did not, my estimate without going out and really looking, doesn't address any drainage issues or culverts if any pipe needs to be replaced. I think there's 2 pipe in that section. So without really looking at that, I mean, I don't have anything in the estimate to any kind of drainage.
Are the pipes damaged yet, Matt?
No, that'll work. But,
I didn't put them in the estimate. I just,
Okay.
and this again is for a half a mile. I just rounded up to a half because my original deal was just a little under a half a mile and then a little over a quarter mile to the end of that property.
Mr. Flanagan.
What other options might there be, Mr. Outlaw? Is there a way we can allow them to do work on that section of road without?
Well, so gravel or anything, I think any work that gets done has to be pursuant to your approval and up to your standard. And in that context, I can't think of any other road or any other example where we allow private folks to maintain or improve a county road.
Well, there's 2 on section lines.
Well,
we just allowed.
like driveways. Well, yeah, a little bit different, I think.
Yeah.
this is a through road. And so I'm trying to put it into context. And again, the statute that would authorize work to be done seems to require that the county do it or hire somebody to do it. And so I guess what you could do is you could authorize less work than what John has estimated, but it would have to be done by us or through us. And then we would have to be mindful about the signs that we would have out there that say, minimum maintenance, no maintenance, or whatever the case may be, if that makes sense. And then obviously there's the context of this, that other people will be looking at these decisions and could extrapolate that and say, I know you just did that for them, but why can't you do this for us for now? I don't know, that's a good reason to decide this, but these decisions don't exist in the fact.
Okay, Commissioner Nyman.
Well, I'm going to kind of narrow this down. If any improvement's done, I would say we improve it to the driveway and no further. We don't need to go all the way through that 40. There's no building rights on the rest of that. And does that mean you can't build a barn too?
I'd have to look back. I think it only meant, I don't think it precluded agricultural structures.
It only pertains to
Thanks. But, that would shorten this by 1,000 feet because you have 879 feet, assuming we go to the middle of the 1320, or excuse me, the lot would be more like 1,000 feet reduction. So I think if anything's done, it would just be that far. And that at that point, there needs to be some way to turn around. It's muddy the rest of the way, right? So you can pull into the driveway and do a T-turn. So I think what we need to do is have the highway superintendent and the landowner look at this proposal, see if we need to have it the full 24-foot standard section.
It's not 24 feet now.
Right, exactly. So you'd have this island of highway out there in it, and see if we can come to a happy medium and see how much the landowner wants to participate in that, and how much snow removal we're going to not do or not do. Get to that level of detail, bring it back to us, and we'll move on.
Well, because the next step would be for the Hoffmans to petition the county to follow through with this, correct?
Well, I'm assuming that you would want them to participate in the cost and expense of it. You could do it apart from that, but again, that's up to you to decide if that's justified.
Can we do an agreement without the petition process?
I would say no. I would say that if they're going to participate, they're going to participate in the cost that we have to follow the statute, which requires a petition and the agreement.
Okay. So they'd have to come back anyway.
Yes.
So maybe we nail out the detail, see how much the applicant wants to participate in it, resolve all these questions, and then, or it stays as it is.
It stays as it is, or you decide that you just want to improve it as part of the greater public good, and to some extent or another. So I guess there's probably three options. It stays the same. You on your own decide it's worth improving, just like it was a county road, or you would invoke that statute and say that there should be some participation.
Commissioner Sleep.
I'll go back to my other question there. I see a fence coming in from the north, I assume. It doesn't come in maybe all the way to the road. There's no fence here either way. Where's that located? Private land, or is that
The fence is
through the pastures?
Yeah, that road is fenced.
both sides.
You can
Must
see it.
be
It's
a
all
long
good
way from
fence
the
too,
fence.
right?
You can see the fence here and there. I believe.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, right there at the top of that grade. I think that's
Maybe this picture will show you better.
There's a fence right here. That's obvious. It comes down there and it goes this way. And
So we get couple weeks in.
Do I make an offer to get a second mile?
Why don't you get with John and establish how far you actually want to go, and John will have a better idea then. Check the culverts out, and then come back with a proposal petition to improve it, and whether you want to have some skin in the game, all those different options, and then we'll address it again. I don't think we can do anything with it today.
Okay.
I would ask, so you leave my foreman out of it too. For me, going forward.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's no problem then.
If I may, if you're done with that matter, Marlo Kaplan's here from the city of Spearfish also to follow up on 3 Spearfish plats. One of the plats was a continuation of a plat you talked about last time, which I would call the second mile of Higgins Gulch.
Thanks, Matt.
John, were you finished with everything?
Got these plats, and then you have some project updates, however you guys want to.
Why don't you do the project updates real quick here?
Thanks,
That
you
should
guys.
The bridges, I guess, are the big ones. The St. Ange Bridge, they got the north side is Island Drive, and they formed it. They're ready to pour on that. We did have a pre-construction meeting for the Nemo Bridge rehab. They are planning on starting that mid to late May. We are today actually removing some fence down there. And the estimates from Rinker Pipe and Hallway Construction on the small structure on the Hannah Road. I want you guys to be aware of that. I don't know if y'all remember. I got a call the other day from Rinker because they changed hands from Proterra. And we had to resubmit all of our applications as far as for credit there and whatnot. We do have all of their stuff on our supplies list for bid for the bridge plank and things like that. So this would be the modular bridge that we budgeted for, and I don't have any estimates as of yet, but I will be getting those. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of it, that bridge is, or small structure, I should say, is going forward. Probably they're wanting to start on that sometime in June. So I give you a heads up on that. We did finally take possession of our backhoe that we ordered in November of 21. It was delivered yesterday.
Wow.
So
You'll
didn't
see
get
that.
wore out then,
It didn't get wore out.
Okay, we do have a public hearing at 9 a.m. So
Make sure that I get an invoice added to insurance. I don't know that I have.
We haven't got invoice yet, but I can get you all the information that today that we have.
Thank you. I was just had a question on the updates.
Okay.
You had a pretty large bill for culverts. Is that just to fill your yard?
That was to finish what we ordered last year. Another carryover because of shortages, but that was our remainder of our order from last year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, this is the time and place for another public hearing. Transfer malt beverage license. Brenda, you want to put us in on this, please?
Yes, I don't know if you recall a couple meetings ago, Triple H Hills LLC, Mystic Hills Hideaway, and Wickman Properties LLC were in talking about the they were going to be managing the restaurant and that up there. Still, no, this is Mystic Hills. And so this is just transferring their malt beverage license and then their wine license into the Wickman Properties LLC.
Okay, this is a public hearing. We're going to offer it to the audience for anyone that might want to speak for or against this transfer. If there is, please stand up, state your name, your address. Is there anyone in the body of the room that would like to speak for or against this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and offer it to the board. Randy?
Is there any complaints in the Sheriff's Department on this? Move to approve the transfer as presented, both of them.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Where'd Amber go? Yeah. Which one are you wanting to address, Marlon?
So there's 3 plats. I'd say let's start with the one that was continued from last meeting.
I think that's a second mile of Higgins Gulch is where we go.
Yep. So this item had been continued during last commission meeting based on the fact that the commission had concerns with authorizing the highway superintendent to sign off on that plat. I've had a chance to reach out to the Forest Service. They're sending it up their chain of command to verify whether or not they have authority to sign that plat. The Forest Service had asked yesterday if we had signed this original plat, and it was at that time the Lawrence County highway superintendent. So I don't know that we're to a point where we're ready for this to move forward. Really, I understand your guys' concerns with it, but ultimately what's happening here is this is a lot line consolidation plat. This is a cleanup plat, and there are already 2 existing accesses. So ultimately what you guys are approving is just that there are 2 accesses present. That is my understanding. But I, yeah, understand if it needs to be continued again.
Mr. Chairman? So I think Marlo would remind us that on the state's map, this is, the jurisdiction of this is listed as other. I think I know that there's, the county has gotten easements of the Active Forest Service, a series of easements along First and Second Mile, many years ago. And as you might remember that the county, it's not in the county system, obviously, and that the Forest Service has the right to, the ability to maintain them if they choose to, right? And so that's sort of the context of making the decision here. So yeah, we are at kind of an impasse. One thing that I think that we may have done in the past, I have to talk to Davida, is I think in the past, I, or maybe Alan or somebody had signed as highway authority, just in terms of the highway system, not saying it is part of the system, as NA, not applicable. And so in that instance, I think that we may have gotten a plat filed in that circumstance. But that's one solution that I've come up with. I don't know that it applies.
Commissioner Flanagan.
I believe in the past, I may have signed in lieu of the Forest Service on plats 20 years ago. You know, under the same, because the Forest Service wasn't signing anything for a while, and it wasn't really a county road. But I believe there may be some out there that I do that I have. I don't remember, or you did. Maybe I sent it to you. I can't remember.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Marlo, is there some urgency on this?
I know that there's a lot sale involved, but
Well,
the applicant has been patient, but I think we have ultimately 60 days to make a decision.
and yeah. Well, your traction with the Forest Service is impressive, and I don't want to stop that traction.
Yeah, I think
And so if we gave it a little more time and you were successful, that would be something we could use as a springboard going in the future for both us and the city. And so I'm anxious to see if you're successful there. So I'm hesitant to sign it currently. And then I think if we exhaust that first, then we would have exhausted all other options. And so if we could do that, and we have new people there, so maybe we'll get something new out of it.
Commissioner Sleep.
Yeah, I think, personally, I think we ought to wait till I hear from the Forest Service. It's going that will take time, but I think it's time well spent.
And ultimately, I think they plan to give me a call next Wednesday with their determination on whether or not, for their records, they have the authority to sign.
And then as far as the time limit, the applicant can ask you to extend that. You have to act on it. So you'd have to either approve or deny in your 60 days unless the applicant asks for the extension.
Approved by city council.
Okay, so it's, you've already acted on it, it's just the filing.
Okay,
thank you.
Mr. Alker, are you going to have a chance to talk with Davida and see if there's an opportunity that you may end up being able to sign that if the Forest Service deems that they are not capable?
I've been meaning to do that, and I should have. I'm impressed that Marlo talked to the Forest Service, and they did outright just say no. So to the extent that they're considering it above no is remarkable to me.
Because we have 3 new people.
So. Not optimistic, but that's pretty impressive.
So at the very least, if they come back in and she does get the expected no, we could then direct you to sign in lieu. Would you be? Well, you're going to check to see if that will, if we have that option.
Yeah, and I don't know why it wouldn't work, because it's up to you, as you know. So the highway authority is not defined. That can be you. That can be whoever you delegate. And so the highway authority, I think, can probably put on the plan whatever they want to, knowingly that there's been official action that's recorded in the minutes, that signature line has been filled in some fashion.
Yeah. We're just very gun shy because we've been told we own roads that we never owned. So because we signed a plat that says we own the road.
One question for legal counsel. As I understand it, we can authorize somebody to sign as the highway authority.
I think that's right.
Can we authorize the city to sign as the highway authority?
I don't know. I have to think about that.
Okay, that might be another option if we give that authorization.
Yeah, 3 mile, that might be a good way to go.
Could be.
So
It's a good
we're just
legal
looking for
question.
solutions. Yeah, yeah. And you may bounce that on your attorney.
Yeah, I think that had been brought up during the last meeting. I discussed that with her. She wasn't completely regarded as a senior. Worked, but I think that's definitely an opportunity for further discussion among legal counsel. Motion to continue this one?
I'll make that motion.
Did we take it off the table? Is it just automatically continued?
It was
We don't take
continued.
action?
I think just no action taken, continue.
Automatically continue.
Yep. We'll come back before you when it's ready for more action, for discussion. This is the Giger plat too, also out of Higgins Gulch.
Yep, that's correct.
First
Seems like-
mile.
First
Yeah,
mile.
Gambler.
Yep, so essentially they are splitting a third lot on an existing parcel that there's 2 existing parcels and they're looking to split one more lot out of the larger 3-acre or the larger parcel. So you would end up with a 3-acre parcel, 2-acre parcel, and a 12.6-acre parcel. It does meet all minimum park forest zoning requirements. The main requirement that staff is looking for here is that the right of way be officially constituted, so that it's in line with minimum subdivision standards.
Commissioner Flanagan, then Commissioner Knight.
Is the entrance into lot 1 and then continues to 2A, is that already in existence?
That's similarly proposed. No, it is not.
So are they adding another driveway off the Higgins Gulch? That's gonna be the problem that I have with this plan. Is the distance between the driveways.
Commissioner Knight.
Well, I'm not going to participate in the vote on this, but I'll give a little information. There's a 2-track that goes in there now.
So there's already sort of an existing, it's
Quasi
non-permanent
approach.
entrance?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the document that we have before us does not reflect what the stipulations were on the plat, that be dedicated outside of the lot as a separate lot. So this does not represent what we would be signing. So we're back to the debate on this piece they want, on the stipulations they want as a lot. And this has been dedicated back with the Van Horn subdivision and the previous subdivision to the south. So this road has been dedicated initially and shown on 2 other approved plats as right of way, not as a distinct lot. And so the landowner is questioning why he's giving up acreage along the entire frontage when it's been previously dedicated and reaffirmed with 2 other plats. So that's, the city is requiring that, and the landowner is wondering why he has to make that into a lot versus right of way, which I already said has been in there for decades.
You're asking where, this just shows these, you're saying
Yeah,
it's
but
platted?
no, the stipulation in the plat is to change that. Is that right?
Yeah, to plat the right of way out in line with the definition of how right of way needs to be platted for the subdivision ordinance.
This was a bigger discussion that needs to be addressed sooner or later, but this is a county secondary. My thoughts were on county primary roads, we should plat that out. On county secondaries, because we can always, if that were to be vacated, then it just easily go to the other thing. When we get to the county primaries, we'll definitely use those to move on. And whether we need to exchange at that point, essentially highway lots, if we're moving it or doing adjustments to it, that would make sense. This is a road to nowhere. I mean, it's used a lot by the public, but it's not, I don't know that it's anything that we would want fee simple for any reason that I can think of. And it's far enough outside of town, I'm not sure that you guys would ever want to touch this road either. It's a little short-sighted to say never, but if it's 100 years from now, it's a different discussion.
Well, my thought is it's already dedicated.
Sure.
But
there's a lot of, so is the old Bell Highway, and they wanted to extend that, and that to me makes sense, but it's just a matter of ownership.
And I just wanted to point out that this plat didn't represent what was requested.
Right, yeah, you bet. So in order for it to meet our minimum subdivision criteria, it does have to be platted out. That is how it was stipulated for city council's approval. Actually, I'm sorry, this has not yet been to city council, but this is how it was stipulated by the planning commission. It's set to go to city council on May 1st. So yes, for it to meet our minimum subdivision criteria. It does
So we're just voting to have him sign it.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we sign this plat. However, if the right of way is platted, the city of Spearfish owns it.
We want a deed.
The city of Spearfish.
Okay, so there would be.
I'll have them. I'll approve the signing of that one, but I I don't think the county wants that property, that right of way. And we don't want fee simple right away in that area.
I'll have a quick question, Marla. Is it in the 3-mile subdivision ordinance that it has to be acquired that way
That it has to be fully plotted out. And that's, yes.
in the old ordinance?
Then the deed would go to the city.
So I guess my question for you is, I know maintenance is a major concern. So this plot is essentially going to get stuck. If it doesn't meet our minimum subdivision criteria, we can't recommend approval to, the only way we can recommend approval to city council is if that right of way meets the minimum definition. So my question to you is, once we get the 3-mile plotting ordinance updated and we address maintenance for whoever is directly adjacent, is this something we should potentially table until we get the 3-mile ordinance update completed?
Mr. Chairman, that could address issues like H lots or not H lots. That could address maintenance. It could address transfer, deeds, warranty deeds. It can address all that. I think that's what Marlo's contemplating. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I just want to note that I've had discussions with basically every jurisdiction on the east side of the state, and everyone handles plats the way that platting is required for our subdivision ordinance. Everyone plats the right of way out. It is not viewed as an H lot. H lots are preserved for very specific situations where there is a widening construction project happening, and that extra right of way needs to be acquired just for whatever that specific scenario is, where they need an extra 5 feet, an extra 15 feet. This is on the major street plan. So.
Commissioner Downey. Well, first of all, we're not East River. Had to say that. Second of all, if we do create a lot, who owns it?
It's not a lot. It's just dedicated public right of way.
But we're removing it by acreage from the tax roll. It doesn't get a parcel ID. And so who's responsible now that it's not that person's property? Who sprays the weeds?
Well, we do. The county would have jurisdiction on that. Okay. I know where you're going with that, and I'm just not quite sure how to even.
Well, and the second part is, my understanding is, for us to accept right away, we have to do it by resolution. And if the city accepts right away in town, they do it by resolution.
Just infrastructure.
Yeah. So Bruce, that's a question that we've discussed.
That's not true. That is not true. If somebody plats, because if you're platting public access, they can dedicate public access by the plat, and we don't accept it. We just oversee it. We don't own it at that point. We just have authority to either close it or alter it or remove obstructions.
But in this case,
we don't own that. We don't have to. We're not necessarily liable to do anything to it.
Well, in this case, we're not approving the plat, so we're not resolving the acceptance of the right of way.
So, for example, you've approved historically, and I'm thinking out loud here, so in subdivisions, and so those are publicly dedicated roads. A lot of them now have road districts, some don't, so they're publicly dedicated. The right of way is designated, but we're not maintaining those, right? And I think there's been a recent case law in South Dakota that suggests that you can have publicly dedicated areas or roads that aren't part of any governmental system. That's from the first time that's ever sort of come out. Because I think the assumption before was that anything that was publicly dedicated was assigned to some governmental entity, road district, township, county, et cetera, right? So state law does allow for the notion of this, but it's not well developed.
So
and I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I just want to get solved.
But I'm saying you're wrong.
But here's the situation. You were talking about authorizing the highway superintendent to sign the plat as is. Would you also put in that motion that you would authorize him to sign if the owner approved the dedication out of the acreage?
Subject to?
Yeah. So it moves forward with either signature. If the owner wants to fight the battle with the city about dedicating
I see. Yes. That's my motion.
Okay. So your motion, just for clarity, is to authorize the highway superintendent to sign it either way, either scenario. I'm not.
Can I ask a question?
This is not the stipulation. The stipulation is the dedicated. It's not shown on this document. Stipulation in the recommendation to council from planning and zoning has not been updated since that stipulation.
I haven't got one yet. It's right on the street. I think we need to. Brandon, can you please restate the motion?
Why does
to allow the highway superintendent to sign this plat?
And then you
Just
As
period, just
recommended
period,
by-
just
as
period.
recommended by city council.
you're not
just
putting the
period.
right away platted.
Do we have a second?
As recommended by city council.
I don't want that in the motion.
No, that's not what I said. So if he wants to fight that part, and you guys can deny it. If he accepts it, then you can sign it either way.
I'm abstaining, so I cannot second it.
I'll second it. Further discussion?
If I might, is there a problem for you saying why the 3 mile area is involved there? What's concerned? Footage on each side or what's the?
Yeah, so the 3 mile boundary, the primary purpose for the city having the 3 mile ETJ, and we'll get into this on the 9th when we're discussing potential updates. But the purpose of that is for the city to be able to ensure that proper right of way has been dedicated along the major street plan. And
Yeah,
Bruce.
So I was just gonna say, and Marlo just got to it, that the city, as part of protecting that 3 mile jurisdiction, has to do a major street plan. And so I think this road is reflected on there, and they can do that statutorily. Marlo was going to stay around for later in the meeting and give you an update. I don't think we should reference these updates to this 3 mile plan, but she has another meeting at the city that's mandatory that she has to be at, and probably needs to get going for. Otherwise, you would hear more discussion about that, and I think she's planning on coming back on the 9th.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just throw this out. Platted right away in this area it'd be a lot easier to cut trees and ride that road. So that's to take those obstructions out. There wouldn't be any discussion with the landowner, any negotiation argument because of our platted right away. Sorry,
There's further discussion.
Should we wait until they come up with their?
Motion second on the floor. Oh, but yeah.
For
All
the
right.
3 mile area?
We have a motion in a second, I guess.
I see what he's saying. I think either way, this part I recognize is county maintained, and this is definitely a part of our road that we deal with. It's not that latter part that scares me. It's this part goes right past Gangler's house and a handful of others before it hits that.
Commissioner Diver.
Well, you know, if we're going to do it, I advocate you do it all the way up the corridor so we don't have piecemeal, obviously. But I think if it's in the 3 mile ordinance, that it's important that we identify that, although the practice has not been that way. In fact, 2 planning directors ago, they told me to throw it away. But anyway, you know, so it's consistent with the ordinance.
So do you want your motion stated, Brandon?
Yeah, we'll just see where it goes.
All right. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It
Well,
takes 3 anyway.
Yeah. The majority of those.
It requires at least 3 affirmative votes for any motion.
And I'll abstain.
So it hasn't been denied, it just hasn't been approved.
Yeah.
You know, maybe
No
the
action.
thing is to take it to the next meeting when you have your 4th commissioner here.
Okay.
So what did you vote?
I should have done a roll call. I was a nay.
The motion fails.
Yeah. When does this go to council?
May 1st.
May 9th is your next meeting.
Yeah.
You have one more, Marlo, the one Creek City Road?
Yep, Kirk City Road. So
See if we can mess this one up for you too.
So this one is court ordered plat. This is an adverse possession case. So essentially this 40, this is splitting these 240s.
There's 240s, you're taking
so
2
there's
lots.
this 80 acres is being split into 24.9 acres and 54 acres. So our primary concern with this is a court ordered plat, is that there's at least legal access to both properties being platted here. Section line access provides legal access to Trout Jail too, and there is a note on the plat referencing the legal access to the northeast quarter, the southwest quarter. So we would recommend approval.
Just a quick question. there's no easement shown on here, just a note and document number 963811. Is that it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And then does JL1 meet our zoning ordinance?
It does. So this plat, I actually had reviewed it previously because honestly, I didn't think that their jurisdiction went out this far. But then when we got into it, it's like, well, I already looked at it. So we sent it to Interstate sent it to city. And we had been working with them on this through the court process. I opted to recommend originally it just was going to come in that it was just a 40. So they were trying to create a 24 and like a 20 something. Not even quite. And I said it'd be better off to do it as a lot line change, basically, because the neighboring landowner got the remainder of that 40 in the court case. Does that make sense? So instead of having a separate lot, they just combined it in with their additional acreage. So now we have a 54 acre and a 24. So it ended up making it where they didn't have to create a non-legal lot because of the court case. Does that make so in the end it's fine because it's just a lot line change between the two 40s.
And I see they have the JL on the new monument.
Yes.
Judicial.
Yep. Because of the judicial.
Yep. I was looking, at least one of those was out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. This looks like it fits all, our criteria is just that it have that there be county jurisdictional access to it, which there's a section line at the very least. The platting part, as far as platted access, the other lot is not in our purview on this particular lot. It's just simply the sign that they have access to county.
It's an access to.
Well, I would move to allow the highway superintendent to sign this document, but I would like the minutes to read that this is a judicial action, so it may not meet all of our construction and or maintenance criteria. And we assume none of either.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. 3, 4.
It's 333, Marlo, for a baseball player. That's a good batting
Yeah, yeah. Shabby. All right, we'll see you all in
Can
a
we
minute.
get through this next
Yeah,
item,
okay.
Amber? Because we do have a hearing at 5:30.
We have one at
We have one right
9:15.
now at 9:15.
Oh, it is a public hearing.
Yep.
All right, let's get with it. It is first reading and public hearing for conditional number 360 owner's net loss. Change of zoning.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
For Daniel and Mark Backens. Remember?
Well, I'm confused. What's the next one? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I noted earlier that I had spoken to the Backens about this. Just for clarity.
Procedural.
Yep, right. Yep.
You don't represent them in any way.
Nope. Nope.
Okay, so this is a change of zoning request from A1 to A. Oh my goodness, I just blanked it. A1 to A2. It's consistent with what's going on out in that area. Basically, what they're trying to do is you have the two family members trying to be able to subdivide that land between the two of them because they have a 50% interest basically in it, and the house portion is obviously worth more than the bare land, so they're trying to break it out so that they can kind of get rid of the 50% of each. They can each own their own. That's why they're going to the A2. It's consistent. There's A2 on one side, rural residential and suburban residential on the other, right along the interstate. I think planning and zoning and county planning and zoning and staff all recommended approval of this rezoning request. And then plating will have to go through the city of Spearfish. They are already aware of that. It'll go through them when they have to divide it per legal lots.
Okay, it is a public hearing. We'll allow it to the public at this time. If you would like to speak for or against this change of zoning, please stand, state your name and address for the record. Anyone?
I'll just make a comment. I'm Mark Backens. I'm a petitioner. Just to further point to what Amber was saying, this land was deeded to my brother and I by my parents as part of the state planning in 2017. Not thinking it through, they deeded it as tenants in common, which means my brother and I both have 50% undivided interest. And as we're doing our own estate planning, cumbersome for my brother and I to try to deal with this property. So we have an agreement to plat it differently, where the land is roughly equivalent to the house with a few acres on it. That is the reason for the petition to rezone from A1.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the body of the room that would like to speak for or against? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and offer to the board. Commissioner Flanagan?
We can't make any decisions this meeting, but I mean, that's what that whole area is larger lot residential, well, large and small lot residential.
Commissioner Sleep, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I did. I see in here that the family wants to be able to continue the ag use. And there's 80 some acres there. Why can't you divide it up? Each gets at least 40 acres and the other one gets the balance for the house.
It's due to value. When we deeded this land in 2017, we had an appraisal done on it. And the house in 2017, my brother and I, the house in 17 acres represented 50% of the value. And roughly 60 acres would represent 50% of the value. We were trying to put the house with 40 acres, then it's lopsided on value. So we wouldn't achieve an equitable split.
I see.
We should continue to cut acres. That's the purpose.
Well, when you wanted to, maybe I didn't understand it right there, but it looks like as long as you're going to continue ag use, why if it was stayed in agriculture, that'd be fine. If you go to A2, why that puts it into 10-acre parcels there, and that's not an equitable agriculture to or many uses of agriculture. Personally, I think you should just leave it the way it is until you decide to split it up. But maybe the house added in makes a difference there. You're working on value rather than acres there.
Correct.
Commissioner Nyberg?
I'm just going to say this, I'm going to say it twice. Zoning does not dictate use. Zoning does not dictate use. I can have ag use in suburban residential, rural residential. So there's a distinction between use and zoning. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, unless there's further discussion, then we'll have the second reading at the next meeting. This is the first reading.
Yeah, that's scheduled already.
Anything further? Okay. And
Second reading, that's what we have to do process-wise, but you don't have to send notification or anything this time. It just goes forward. Okay?
And that's like a reading.
Yep, next meeting. Thank you.
9:15.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
okay, 9:30. It's another public hearing.
Yep.
Owner applicant is Lighthouse Construction, Black Hills Development.
So,
Go ahead,
you
Aaron.
want me to, okay. So this is a public hearing. This is a development plan. If you remember last month, I had kind of told you that this was coming. You guys approved the plat. So you approved lot 1, block 10, a trailside addition at the time. And it basically is a plat that's kind of this little triangle sort of piece right on here. You approved that plat. Now, as part of that, because it's a new commercial use inside the planned unit development, I requested them to do a full-fledged development plan. And so with this, they are wanting to allow commercial construction office, showroom, warehouse on 0.633 acres, which is what the plat was that you guys approved. The development plan falls within the Powderhouse Pass planned unit development. It was approved in 2005 and amended in 2019 with the intention of a future plan to include up to a total maximum number of 72 commercial industrial acres or lots. It's dependent on how they come about with acreage. This is only 0.633 acres. The clubhouse pool area is currently the only acreage being utilized towards this already allowed acreage. The new plan will be inclusive of the total allotted lots to be utilized as commercial. As part of this development, they will be hooked into the current water and sewer system.
our ordinance states that any new commercial use has to go through the development plan process. So that's kind of where they're at right now. And when you go down into this, you'll see that I have included, we are deeming this highway service commercial, not as zoning, but as what they're going to be allowed to do, because that's the closest to what they're looking at. And in the current PUD, it talks about the things that are allowed commercial uses. This falls within that. Prohibited uses I have included in the requirements too, because it does specifically state that truck terminals are not allowed. And so we wanted to make sure, everybody can know unscreened outside storage, that kind of stuff. And as part of this process, as going through it with the developers, they're aware of that this will not be a truck terminal where there's going to be trucks parked there all the time, but they will have deliveries. The development plan, we did include the criteria for you, so you can see that. And then I did have a few conditions with the completed application, and I know the developers did review this prior to. All access points from Highway 14 shall be approved by the DOT. Internal traffic must utilize Amber's Way. They're going to, from the sounds of it, so there will be no additional, accesses. And if there were to be, you guys don't approve those anyways because it's a state highway. So no more than 2 trucks may be on site at any time for deliveries. Deliveries must take place during daylight hours. They may not stay overnight on site. Only 1 on-premise sign may be allowed, and I think it was kind of determined that there probably wouldn't be much for signage. I mean, a little bit, but the normal. The vegetation for screening must be installed prior to the structure being utilized for businesses, and then no outside storage can take place. Those were conditions that staff had put on there. Planning and zoning did motion to recommend approval of this. They don't really get to make a decision on development plans, but they did review it at the last meeting. So with that, they did provide a full packet to you. This was the detailed site plan that they provided. It meets the parking requirements, and building location where they were going to do deliveries, employee entrance, screening. You can see where trees and stuff will go. Here's Ember's Way here.
Okay.
I don't know, they did some kind of, so you can see what it would look like, I guess. This was the plat that you guys approved last month here. It's in the packet.
Okay. This is part of the public hearing process. Is there anyone in the body of the audience who would like to speak for or against this? Please stand up, state your name, your address. I assume you're the applicant.
I am.
If you'd like to add anything, that'd be appropriate.
Just that it's our office showroom. Amber did ask about cross traffic. I would guess there might be 1-2 trucks a week dropping off like tile or flooring. They're basically going to be in and out in about 15 minutes. Drive back, forklift unload, put it in the warehouse, and out. This is a very low traffic. Our building will be a showroom, and it's our customers in that general area. So, our employees will be there, but even customer traffic will be minimal. It's people who are building a house and want to pick out product.
Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and offer to the board.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I wanted to reiterate that the applicant did contact me ahead of the meeting just for transparency. Yep. I wanted to make a point here. If you look at this layout, the colored one, architects love to put a lot of stuff on these. What they've done here is they've displayed that the trucks can get in and out of there. That's why they show up traffic. It's not that they would be parked.
Oh, I
there.
like this way better than the stick man things we've been getting.
And they show a trailer parked in there, a flatbed and stuff. That's just to show that they have the space and the traffic. So that's just for effect. Yeah, and that's why they do that. So I find it helpful.
So it's very well thought out and laid out. Thank you for that. And
Do we still have like down throw lighting or indirect lighting and those kind of things right here coming around that corner? If you've got these bright lights, it might be a little
You
jarring.
could probably add that as a condition. Development plans, we don't usually,
Did we
we don't
take
have
those
a set.
off? We did once upon a time.
Well, conditional use plans, you always have it. Development plans, you have to put the conditions on there.
Last one I really remember doing that on was the building that now houses Rushmore Bikes out at the industrial park.
That was.
Put shields on it. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But that's in the industrial park. But that was a development plan we made to put down through.
Yeah, you can add it as a condition if you want to.
But on there, it might be.
Yeah.
I could see bigger lights with not the shielding necessarily, but just the down throw, so not just those big halogen.
is that
If they even use
is
those
that
anymore.
bad?
That's I guess I kind of would. Do you have any heartburn with having the lighting that doesn't shine out, just shines down? I know you're probably gonna have some parking. It'll be the poles, but.
Well, that whole development has very little lighting. The only lighting is by the.
And I
It's
suspect
pretty
that
dark out there.
that you'd have some people jumping you about that if you put regular, like those, what were they, halogen?
Yeah,
the
you just want to show the
sodium,
lighting like we usually
the
do.
old sodium bulb things.
You're talking about downlights.
Yeah, they're just shielded on the sides, but you can put them on a pole.
We have specific wording that we can pull over from the conditional use.
That would be my only, I guess I'll put it in as a request.
Okay.
Well, do they have covenants out here that require that already, Amber? Do we know?
I don't look at covenants. I don't know.
It's not, we don't
It's not my
enforce
thing.
covenants. We don't enforce.
So does the other government body have the ability to do that?
They're not signing the development.
I don't
plan,
know.
We are.
They won't have to approve this. They don't.
Can you
go with
address that,
this.
sir?
Ron Williams,
Yeah, I don't know. Ron.
AD2S, engineer for CID and the developer. As far as lighting goes, that's always a topic in their architectural reviews in the development, whether it's a house or their building. Down lighting is definitely something they want. Their homeowners in the area that the neighbor puts up a spotlight or something that comes to the CID and they're always this. They do not want that light. So that particular concern would be addressed through the architecture review and the CIDs monitoring things and the covenant. They don't want the same. They don't want those kind of lights.
Yeah, and my point is it's unique because we have all these jurisdictions. So I don't have a problem making it redundant. I don't have.
It's just we only have control over what we do.
But they won't.
Like that.
I'll make a motion to approve this with the addition of down throw lighting.
Okay.
Second.
And are you also agreeing with the 7 conditions I already put on it? I'm just making sure that it
Yeah,
comes
let me
forward
double check
that way, just
where.
to make sure. I don't want to have any.
I don't know that I actually saw specifically
Yep.
the 7 conditions.
In the
I
staff.
apologize for that.
My second included those, so if your motion did. And so number 8 would be the down throw lighting, right, Amber?
Yeah. And agree. No, or-
Have you seen these, the conditions?
Yes, I have.
And you have no issues with any of those? Okay, then yes.
We wouldn't be a good mix for the owners of the residential lot or the commercial lot.
This is his response to my staff report. They would
We're
agree.
vested
I thought I
in
forwarded it and maybe I didn't.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I forgot.
Thank you.
So I want to clarify for everybody, just so process wise, and I know you and I have talked about this. The development plan has been approved based on those things, but we still have the change of zoning, no, not change of zoning, the ordinance revision taking place too. Yeah. The ordinance revision that we're going through as well. We want to make sure that it takes effect before we issue a building permit, but we've already worked on that.
And that won't happen until.
Because it doesn't take, because we're in the process of that 20-day wait period for the new
So
ordinance.
do we need to change that motion to take effect after
We
after
didn't
that
at
is
planning
in
and
place? Because
zoning,
we're
but,
approving something that doesn't exist or
well,
isn't
no,
allowed
it
currently.
does exist, but it was really up to you guys if you were comfortable with, remember when they did the PUD originally, they said they were gonna have commercial areas. but it's not on the map. So that was the thing. If you're comfortable with this, we all knew this is along a major corridor.
Sure.
It's really your
Procedurally, though,
call.
we maybe should have said something. It only
I
takes
forgot about
effect,
it,
this
I'm
agreement
sorry.
only takes effect if and when that part is, which
Okay.
shouldn't be an issue.
No.
It's purely procedural, but we've approved something that hasn't been 100% locked into
Vetted.
place yet.
Yeah.
It probably makes sense to readdress. I think we're all on the same page in terms of timeline. It's kind of a chicken or the egg proposition, it seems to me. And so, but
It's
yeah,
a land
maybe we
use
should
map
revisit it, just to be
Land
clear,
use map update.
when Randy gets ready.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
I forgot about it, I'm
We'll take a
sorry.
break now.
Yeah.
We talked about it at
We'll just,
planning and
we'll
zoning.
clarify the wording, but
Short
it's,
break.
it's fine. We just need to do a little procedural here.
Okay, I think we're back live.
I don't know what that is. Anyway.
Commissioner Diver, we had a little procedural
Yeah, I heard
discussion. Okay. So I'm going to amend my motion to what I approve with the 8 conditions.
Plus the effective date of the land use map.
Correct.
Came up with
Effective date
of the land use map.
of
That's your second.
land.
Coincide with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
motion and a second to
Thank
amend
you.
the original motion. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay,
All right,
yes, you can
Amber.
bring the sign back. Next one is the development agreement. Put this in here so I can keep some arguments here. Okay, so this is, we're kind of still going down this procedural thing. So to kind of lay this out, we've done the plat, we've done the development plan. Now the next step will be the land use map and whatnot, which you're going to see next month. This one, they're trying to set it up for the particular property that we just discussed, the development plan, property, and the plat. We're having a separate final development agreement specifically for that commercial type use. And this is it. Basically, if you go through this, it talks about the design stages, which have been identified as the Embers Way Commercial Light Industrial Area of Development within the Powderhouse Pass. It consists of approximately 5 acres. This is only 0.633, so this is going to be kind of that general vicinity. The development will conform to the county's current planning and zoning regs. This is kind of boilerplate that we've seen in all the stuff, just this is getting to commercial. The preliminary design, including the review of the water and wastewater to serve that area. The CID provides wastewater collection and the centralized system with the grinder pump lift stations 2, 3, and 4. You know, they just kind of lay out what their plan is. Most of it's already in, I think, for the most part. So the wastewater treatment facility, where it's at and what they're going to do. They have the water from the Lee Deadwood. The water comes from the district. And then it just kind of has your, I would say, your legal language of whereas. I'm not going to read it all to you. And then it just has the dates in here. These are pretty consistent, and you're going to see them as the different areas gets developed. We're going to carry these forward just to make sure that infrastructure gets put in and everything. So this matches what we've done so far.
Well, I have a question. So they're using our zoning definition.
Yes.
And so does that zoning definition allow conditional use permits?
Yeah.
Just like that zoning
just
district, just like that district.
And this is what they do with the PUD is I have to know what their use is so we know what to reference it to. So under the new PUD regulations that take effect May 5th, remember all those allowed and conditionals that we had under the PUD go away, and they now have to reference one of our districts. So whether it's highway service or commercial industrial or residential, that's what we're going to go back to for setbacks, allowed and conditional uses.
All right, thank you. That explains it.
To me, it sounds like they're laying out a new town. You know, new towns weren't supposed to be built in the comprehensive plan.
That was approved 20 years ago.
20 years.
That they laid out a new town, essentially. Yes.
Yep.
After I got off planning and zoning and before,
2005.
when the new commission, before I got back on. But that's what it is. It's pretty much that.
Rich, I remember at the time talk of multifamily housing, a business park. There were lots of different ideas. Definitely commercial was discussed, although I don't know the exact uses or the exact locations were ever identified. I think it's taken this long to basically for it to mature enough to be able for that to happen. And so this is what you're seeing now.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there's 2 states in the United States that allow community improvement districts, Florida and South Dakota. And since this has been, the CID has been approved, statute has changed that you have to have a larger number of residents to incorporate as a city. It used to not be 100, now it is. So, you know, this could become a city someday. But right now, it operates like a city, although it's not a city. And I don't see it's a lot different than the unincorporated cities like Central City that we have, the way they're acting. So I don't have an issue with it because the whole plan had been approved back then.
Well, we tried to get them later on to go into with the city of Lead, and that would have been ideal. But the city of Lead didn't have enough financial support themselves to do that.
I don't think they can reach it to make it contiguous.
Well, it's Charles Forcer, so
right. Yep.
Okay, what's your pleasure on?
Most approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Nice and easy. Treating together. System.
Yeah, that is better, yeah.
No, this just needs a note.
Deadwood meters are finite. They can't.
They did it that way.
Go
Sorry.
over.
Okay, good.
I would,
hate
I
having
would
to
never
this
have voted
one.
for your lights out for the way it's set up.
But they have
But
one area that
it was
they
after I was
separate.
out at planning and zoning before I got back on the board. It was approved. I just after I saw it.
Well, it's better than Mystic Minor was. They finally got rid of Mystic Minor.
Yes, it was
Oh,
excellent.
oh, there he is. I was like, perfect timing. There he is. I'm like,
I
ah.
mean, yeah, there's. adverse
Okay.
situations.
I think they managed
Applicant
pretty well.
Maitland Fishers.
Is well
Okay.
controlled.
Dakota
I don't know what I
Dakota
recall.
Drainage
I don't know what that is, that's the issue stuff.
That's,
They may not want to city other.
San Diego State, it's red stuff. It's red stuff.
Okay, so we have a preliminary plat. We had to go back and forth on this a little bit. So you guys had, let me go back. I got lots of background here. This started on May 5th of 2022, so almost a year ago. You guys went out, you did an out on site for this property, and at that time there were some concerns. And then it came back before this board. Divert and Sleep moved to continue the preliminary plat to allow for clarity on the water system. Al Shire went and started working on that. Eric Neese was here, if you kind of remember, this was back in June of 2022. And they were, at that time, Divert discussed the results of the fire flow testing and requested more information in order to clarify that the lines will not collapse when the pumper truck is hooked to the system. Applicants requested clarification on the fire flows required, as well as clarification of whether the system is considered a central system or a municipal system. At that time, the commissioners all agreed that it was a central water system. No action was taken on the preliminary plat. And then July 26th of 2022, Flanagan Divert motioned to continue the preliminary plat for Maitland Partners until September 6th of 2022, so that the applicant could go through the process with the DANR. And then September 6th, 2022, Al came back and did an overview in front of you guys for the lot, and Divert and Sleep continued the preliminary plat until September 27th to allow for the design of the water system from the applicant. And then basically from there, it's just taken that long to get to this point. I'd say would be the quick, it just took a lot longer. And then Al had resubmitted, and that's everything that was in your guys's, in the drive. There was a lot of information. There was different documents that had gone to the DENR and they've received approval now. So I provided you the copies of the stamped plans from the state that they've approved. But there were some, I think it's this letter. I want to make sure I pull up the right one. So this letter was received on March 13th, 2022. And this one, I think that should have been 2023. Isn't this the letter you just gave me?
Yeah, it was 23. Yeah,
Okay, I was like, I don't think that date's right.
Yeah,
This is the one I just got, and basically he said, you know, they went to the DNR, did review and approval of the plan. We weren't really certain where to go with this, but then when I went back and looked at the minutes, you guys had never officially approved the preliminary plat, basically. It just kept getting continued. So I told them we needed to first look at the preliminary plat. As part of that preliminary plat process, we usually require, you know, your road stuff, your water stuff, all of your stuff has to be submitted. The road stuff, basically you've already approved that. You guys went out and looked at it, you did all of that part. We were down to the water, and that's kind of where this is now. And if you look at this, he is asking, I would say, for 3 or 4, 1, 2, 4, it looks like 4 exceptions out of this letter. And this is where we're at today, I guess. Is that fair? Al?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything you want to
This
add
talks
to
about
that?
some of the back slope, sorry.
Yeah, no, if there's
Jump in,
anything else you want to add, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Is there a road district here?
No, there's not a road district yet.
Or the process.
There, because you guys haven't approved it yet, right?
We haven't had, we don't have
Starting
the,
it.
we don't have the petition yet.
Well, looks like we ought to approve the road district long before now on this one. There, it's not just a level playing field up there. It's up and down and pretty steep ground, and they're going from knob to knob there. It's a different kind of a plan there.
Right. The road district isn't a requirement. That's something that they can choose to do or not. This application today has nothing to do with the road districts. You're talking about water. So that's where we're at right now.
But we can require a road district there. They don't have to do it until later, but that's too late.
Refresh my memory, if you would. They're taking care of their own roads.
Yes.
And so when we do what we are doing today, that's different. We're approving the water and we're approving these exceptions. So the exceptions do bring the road destruction. So I want to talk about the water briefly. Al, your design now gets us 1,000 or 1,200 gallons a minute.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Theoretically, build it.
That was what we asked for. So okay.
And I think they're installing. They did that by putting in.
I seen the tank
station, right? Or the.
No, you're adding a tank.
Tank. There we go.
Yep, that's it.
Just to recap real quickly. Yeah, I came in August to September. Gave the idea. They decided to put a tank in, but I think the commissioners, where's the plans? And September 27th, I agreed to that. I was kind of foolish because I couldn't get it done. This is here we are today with the plans.
Yeah.
States approved them, etc.
So to me, we've answered the water issue. But we have a new issue before us today, which is the exceptions. Fair enough?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Which is the exception?
That's on the second page on the back slope.
Like the last
So if I may continue, Mr. Chairman, does Eagle Court in these areas service a number of lots on those big back slopes, or they have other access?
Eagle Court is going up into an area where it would be a dead end, or they could do another branching road off in the future. But we haven't done the branching road design, but it is possible to come out, make another loop inside here. This is a big property. We can't do it this one circle road. You have to have multiple loops ultimately to develop that property fully.
Will you be asking for any driveways on these slopes?
No, okay. No, we're not.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, there's no platted lots on Eagle Court. And the exceptions are similar to what we had before. The commission remembers there's some steep areas. There's a rock outcropping right where Eagle Court, what we're calling Eagle Court, ties into our Paradise Gulch Loop. The exceptions are basically what was done before. If I recall it, without seeing the letter, again,
One last question. In your original plans, did you show these back slopes that you presented with the preliminary?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Flanagan.
So if we approve this preliminary, we've essentially approved the water system and the road design. Is that correct? And then there's before the final,
Yeah,
they'll be
'cause you
built
guys
that way or bonded for?
Yes, they either have to be built or bonded before they can get any final plats, and they're not asking. for
And as
final right
built.
now.
When is the last time planning saw this? Has it been a year ago?
Yes, because it didn't change from what the only change was the water.
And that's what I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
there
And
was
their
no
recommendation
change.
at that time
Was approval.
I'll make a motion for the
Yep.
preliminary.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second on the preliminary. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So the preliminary plat's been approved. Now, what I've been told, and I don't know if this has changed now, is at this time, they do not plan on bonding for anything. They're gonna build it all, at least at this point, before any final plats come forward. So that was the last time I had talked to them.
That's what I've been told. Nobody have talked about bonding unless they actually happen. So,
yeah.
I have a favor to ask. Is the road district issue going to come up again in the future, or is that just?
It's going to come up.
I would say it's
every
in their best interest to get a road district.
Advise them to get going.
That would be
Yes.
good. That
You
would
want
be
to
good.
explain, yeah. If you can
Just FYI, Joe, what Joe's last name is, Wayne, Stopped in yesterday and got the petition, so.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were gonna try this.
Good idea.
Okay, so I don't even know where we're at right now.
We're at ten
Thank you.
15, review and acceptance of the wildfire mitigation contractors.
Yes, okay.
Trenton Miller and Melody Bob.
So,
There you go.
Melanie's here, okay. So we just happened to get 2 new applicants within a short amount of time, which is a good thing. So, Trenton is in here, and if you remember, we went back and changed our ordinance requirements that if they sent everything to you and you guys were comfortable with their experience or expertise, I guess would be the best way to explain it.
Qualifications.
The qualifications, you could have a little bit of leeway on if you were okay with them continuing with what they were doing, to allow us to get, I guess, some more contractors in. I'm going to the definition for you, so. There we go. So the definitions for a wildfire hazard assessment contractor per our ordinance is a person who possesses the following minimum certifications: the S-130, S-190, and S-290, S-215, and a firewise.org certificate, but I believe I have to double check. I think I got something from Logan Brown saying that certificate no longer exists. Is that correct, Melanie? Right? So we need to we just found that out. So we need, it's not there for them to do. So it's one of those things. I thought that was fine. And then it says, or they can have equivalent NFPA credentials and at least 2 years of wildland fighting experience with a certified fire department located in the wildland urban interface setting. And so we kind of allowed you guys to look at those requirements. And so what?
Push.
I lost the drive.
That's right. We're looking over Brandon's shoulder.
Yeah. Well, I lost the drive, so let's go back.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
Yes.
Do both of these people in your mind meet the requirements
I think
that we need?
in different aspects, they have more than enough expertise. And
Then I move to
requirements
approve
make
both.
them.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of
Melanie Bond and
Melanie and Trenton. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks for coming, Melanie.
Are you Trent?
Yes.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Trent. And you're just gonna basically work under interstate though, right? Whenever they have projects, or are you gonna be kind of, if anybody wants to
We're
hire
gonna
you?
develop it as an offering and in-house.
Okay, so can I
Any of our projects, and then we'll be open to take in.
So I can put you on we'll say the public list, that if somebody says, hey, who can do this? I can put you on that list.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, making sure.
Okay, thank you.
Tell Karen and Dick hello.
Okay, we're down to items from the public. Is anybody in the public?
I have one, I'm sorry that I didn't put on the agenda, but if I can ask you
Oh,
for it.
no.
I know, this just came in this morning. You guys probably heard about the fire out on Gold Dust Trail. The house was a total loss. They contacted us yesterday. We've done this in the past when it's a total loss for a fire. They would like to rebuild in the same location. Brand new house. I mean, it's gone. They've already bulldozed it down, and we have allowed, if they come forward and ask for a formal request, to not make them pay the building permit fees. They still have to get the building permit and meet all the requirements. It ends up being $1,275 based on what they asked us for square footage. This is a 2,300 square foot.
Obviously, they're gonna use the same foundation and everything then?
They may have to do a little bit of work to it, but it sounds like the foundation will
Pretty
be
much
okay.
same footprint.
For the most part, yeah.
Brandon,
Just for clarification, your house insurance pays for that building permit. Just so everybody's aware. But if you've done that in the past.
We have when it's fire
If we have the right
related.
coverage. Yeah. Full replacement.
okay, what's your pleasure?
I would move to waive the building permit based on the fire destruction.
I'll second it. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I think I'm just gonna abstain from that one. I still don't know how I feel about that. I'm still trying to process it.
Were you aye or nay?
I'm an abstain. I'm gonna not vote on
So
that. 3-0-1.
So motion carried.
Okay.
I've had discussions with people in the past going, the building, yeah. So
Okay,
I understand it.
anything from items from the public? Seeing or, did you have anything you wanted to say, sir? Okay.
But the other gentleman in the lobby.
No,
The guy in the back row, he's invisible.
All right, items from commissioners.
You want to hear some?
Sure.
Well, since you guys traveled, I guess we get a full report on your convention too. I did have opportunity to meet with the Secretary of Agriculture in Pierre regarding the county funding for the forest plan revision. We're very close to have that agreement in place. Very flexible guidelines, so it should be beneficial. And it's backdated to the day the governor signed the bill. So, secondly, Mitch Iverson, Bill Coben, and I met with the acting forest supervisor yesterday, talking about our cooperative agency agreement for the entire forest. So we clarified how we believe that should be interpreted. They were very receptive. It was a very positive meeting. The watershed at Pactola was an action by the Department of Agriculture at the federal level. And they assigned the Forest Service to it. So that's why it's been moving very fast. So it's a little bit outside.
Because it wasn't them that's.
Right. So anyway, it was a good conversation talking about how we feel we need to engage early on the timber project level. We went over Camara, we went over Zeppelin, we went over the spruce project. So,
Also, are you two gentlemen going to be around Friday? I cannot make that meeting work Friday.
well, I'm the alternate, and he's prime, by the way.
I
told you.
I thought you were.
I didn't know that, Randy. And you know, Bruce said
I thought he was the alternate.
I know.
Anyway, I can make it. I
Okay.
can. Are you gonna come?
Thank you.
I can come.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I
don't.
like to go in.
Yeah,
that's
that's,
conflict that
yeah.
day. Okay, anything else, gentlemen?
Well,
Richard?
go ahead and tell us about your meeting.
Yeah.
It was kind of,
It
it was kind of old hat. We had some private discussions on stuff that we didn't agree with, but we'll continue to handle our meetings like we see fit. It seems to work.
The biggest thing that they said was just be consistent in what you're doing.
Yeah, which we are.
Even if the process isn't quite the same as some other jurisdictions.
No, I'm sure that we probably ended up with little bits here and there. We attended pretty much all of them. It went well. It was informative. We had some good speakers.
What can we use from in Lawrence County from that conversation?
You can get syrup from a
box elder
tree.
Okay.
I had to look it up. He goes, "I was telling me last night." I'm like, wait. So I looked it up. There's three types of maple trees, and box elder is one. There's four types. Box elder is apparently the second best after sugar maple of the four varieties of maple derivative trees.
Is that gonna be the next thing I'm gonna see before?
No, I'm just gonna make it in my yard and see how it goes.
But there's really nothing new to add to what I gained out of those meetings. We're doing things right in this community. I mean, I think we always have. We've got a well-run system.
I think it's an affirmation when you go there, not only that we're doing it right. We see what other counties do and what we could do better, but typically on the tax part of it, on the property taxes, it's timely with your Board of Adjustments. And I know you didn't get through some of those slides. That's always a good refresher for me.
We hardly made it I
15
started the way
minutes,
through
yeah,
because
into
we had a
45
gentleman
minutes.
from another county sitting down in the front, and immediately he would start asking questions, and they would allow it. Then pretty soon we were out of time.
And they were
presentations.
they were rabbit hole questions. It took you
Oh.
somewhere not anywhere near where you were going with it.
No, it was horrible.
The one thing that I did see, there's an awful lot of federal grants out there for all kinds of transportation stuff. And I told Bob on the way back, there's two that I'd really like to try to go after. And it's to widen the Homestake Road, Hillsview Road out to Higgins Gulch from that stretch that goes out by our house.
From the mill.
And also it'd be nice to try to get that from the corner of Valley Corner out to Wig, so that if we could widen that road, at least have one decent shoulder for pedestrians, I think.
You know what we should do is get our consultants and say, hey, there's grants, go get them.
That would be the smart way. And I don't have
And that's worked good in the past.
But there's a bunch of federal money in that last federal, what they call it, it's the bipartisan, the big something like that, but it's
at the federal level.
Yes.
The night before the conference was the county executive board meeting. And we have 2 new people on that board that were assigned the next day because one person took an auditor job. So the second vice president was open. Came from East River. It's a guy from Yankton that was treasurer, real good guy. He was sitting with us when I left.
Yep, Dean or not Dean.
Yeah. Anyway, and then they appointed a gentleman that's been on that board for quite a bit of time as the acting secretary until the convention in September, when they'll have new people running for the treasurer's office, and they'll have another VP open. The VP had to be East River, so it goes in a rotation. A lot of other things were discussed, like the summer study, and the executive board of the legislature met Thursday while you were there, and they pushed the scope of work for the summer study on county, so that we should be able to look at it.
Okay. Do you have anything further, Richard?
Well, I was just gonna say that we were gonna transplant 30 trees over at the fairgrounds on Saturday, but the weather, the more timid ones didn't like the weather, so we didn't do it.
So you planted them?
They went, huh? No, we're gonna dig them up.
Somewhere else?
Utilize a big tree spade to do that, Richard?
Yeah, we put in 70 a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And they didn't turn out too good, but put them in, so we're just gonna work at it again.
Yeah, you
with
never
smaller
know
ones and bigger
what
ones.
kind of a loss you're gonna have. Anything else?
And I might say that too, the fair board like $5,000 from each county for electricity. And I didn't commit any at all. I just told one guy that if we're gonna even talk about it, it'd be this next budget session. And I also went to the Western Dakota Region Water System Committee in Rapid City, and they expressed concern of water like everybody else. There's a lot of people there. And the county, Lawrence County has 71 water systems in this county. Huh. And most of them are in this county, and the others are from the Madison Formation and the Menalusa Formations. And they have got test wells all over the western counties here, and they don't. Some years the drought affects the weather more than the use, or the water more than the use.
So the levels haven't really dropped because of the usage?
Well, they blame it on droughts, but it's both. And that they're going to have their next meeting September 12th in Spearfish. So recommend some go anyway. That's about all I had on that. The concern, and even the Madison Formation and on towards Hot Springs and around, they vary a lot of feet each year depending on the use of the drought. So
we're going to be faced with good freshwater issues in the very near future.
Well, Madison and Menalusa daylight don't appear in South County.
and not all the way down there.
No, that's why they're using the homestake system that lead to sanitary district. That's why they're buying it there, that big surface system. So what these people at Western Dakota and other people throughout the state don't understand is how critical that surface collection is of homestakes, how unique it is. They're all thinking about aquifer water, and we're actually using surface water, springs and other things on that homestake system. And so this Western Dakota, if they bring water out here, they haven't determined whether they can service the real areas of need, which are Custer, because it has a lot of iron content. They have to treat that water significantly. And us, South County, and West Pennington County, because they don't have the money to get over the hills, right? And so I'm real cautious on our engagement unless they can show us that they're going to get us water. And in Fall River County, why aren't they using Cheyenne? It's a question I have.
I don't have that water right. A lot of irrigation. Well, that project.
We were blessed with good snow in the hills to help
Recharge.
Anything else?
That's where the recharge comes from.
Yeah.
All the hills for Madison, all the other.
We got a guy in the back waving his arm.
I think there was information from, or you saw it, DANR, was it, or there was an announcement regarding Agnico and up at Rome. And I got contacted by Quinn Neff, who works for Agnico, and he's been here before to talk to you. And if you have any questions about the next phase of what they're looking to do or anything of the sort, they're willing to come talk to you, but I didn't know that would be necessary at this point.
The DANR will update us when they get some of this paperwork processed. They're in the middle of a bunch of stuff. They're going to come and talk to the commission and other government leadership specifically, and then they'll have a public meeting. And the timing isn't here yet. That's
also
what Roberts told me.
Document where they've reviewed and accepted Worf's application. Okay. Anything else?
I would just say on the water again too, it's important that we keep Forest Service going on the timber industry, because big trees, if they aren't cut, they use a tremendous amount of water. Each tree every year, a tremendous amount of water. And also the development up high, Powder House Pass and others, they're concerned with water usage too, even though they got tanks. They are prepared for it now, but the future isn't far off.
We did have a discussion yesterday with the forest supervisor about the Camara project not addressing the spruce issue. And the spruce is the one that is overtaking the aspen and using all the water. And in our comments, we addressed that too, that we need to harvest them. Their response was, we have the spruce project, which is going to do that over top of this. And so we're pushing hard to manage
contract just for the spruce.
That's right, project just for the spruce project. And we didn't feel comfortable with that, I don't think. But the point is, the spruce is overtaking the riparian areas, and that's reducing a lot of water. They're big hogs. Okay. Just like cottonwood and
anything for
Russian olive.
I have 25 items on the planning and zoning meeting. In case you're bored, next Thursday.
But I think we really need to keep pushing on this 3 mile ordinance update. And really, we don't have a dog in the fight. We only have it when they initiated it back when, and then they did an amendment to it. They don't even have to really deal with us. But I think the door's open to get into that discussion.
Planning it right away is probably an important one. We need to decide if that's what we want to do or if we don't. Because, and if they require it, then I think they should take the underlying. We have an overlay on whatever happens to be there. But again, if we go back to maintenance, especially that Higgins Gulch Road, if we want to cut trees and we have it platted right away, we don't just go there and cut them.
Well, there was an episode in Rapid City on Sheridan Lake Road going south out of town where it was all acquired and deeded. And they got underway with the construction, and a guy had a tree belt in the deeded H lot. And he filed a cease and desist lawsuit after the contractor had started. And rather than hold up the contractor while court moved on it, they paid him $40,000 for those trees. So there's not always a super protection, even though you own the H lot. And that was a City of Rapid and DOT project And they determined to do that because shutting down the contractor and the back charges would have outweighed it, so.
Anybody can sue anybody.
Right, and that's unfortunate.
The 3 mile area, excuse me, the 3 mile area is a big thing. We need to do more than we are. It makes a big difference to Lawrence County where they string out 3 miles here and 3 miles there and then do something, they go another 3 miles and it's just
I wasn't
a
aware
nightmare.
that they went clear out.
Well,
They
but
go-
you gotta remember, you have the ETJ ordinance, which
Which
is
is
only a
different.
mile. 3 mile platting is statute. You
That's-
don't have,
the
you don't
state-
have a say in where they're gonna plat. That's a
Well,
statute.
but they can reduce it.
We can,
3 miles doesn't have to be 3 miles.
It says
can
up
they
determine-
can
you
go
can-
up to 3
up
miles.
to 3 miles.
So you can
That's what-
negotiate.
But the city
Not
decides
for
that.
platting.
The city
No, not for
decides,
platting.
I think you can.
I don't think you can.
they can
That's what
give
we
us
need.
back a portion of it, but we can't force it.
The statute says up to 3 miles.
And, but they don't, they are incorporating, they have no intention of decreasing the 3 mile platting.
Well, the thing about it is if they're requiring additional right of way, the way that they're doing it, then let's deed it to them. There's no question on ownership. And if we have to have a maintenance agreement that we're going to maintain that road on their property, I don't have a problem with that. But if their
Well-
long-term goal is to own that right of way and set it out, then deed it to them.
Technically, we're maintaining our easement over the top of their property.
Right.
I mean, that's, if that, yeah, I mean, that, at the end of the day, if they're requiring plotting, I think they should own it. We gotta maintain our road that's
Right.
that's eased on top of the property that they own. I don't think that's, I mean, if they want that spelled out, I think that's perfect, let's do it.
And
And they'll have a bunch of road owned, fee simple owned property out there, and that's fine. It doesn't-
islands out there, Yeah, I like if it's corridors. I don't have a real issue with that. But when you just have this one 2 miles out
Okay.
and nothing else is that way, I
gotta start
struggle with that.
We're in the weeds.
Well, we could,
Make a motion to adjourn.
You can, yeah.
You can just say we have no business before us, we are adjourned. Get a motion.
Well, I like
Motion to
it, but-
adjourn.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Just because you
We
want to
need a
change
second.
everything to some
And
other
that
way.
will reconvene as the Board of Equalization.
So,
Oh, that's
Bruce, do you
right.
have to
Oh,
do
yeah.
anything with
Yeah,
this?
Fred.
No, just leave it on? Okay.
I think we ought to try and get 3 mile area, depending on the population of the city, how much they get to take.
That's what it's based on. They're
Yeah,
a class
you
one,
get to
they're a
so
class
big, you have
one
to take
city, so they can
Well, I don't
exercise
think
up to
Spearfish
3
is that
miles.
big yet.
Yeah, it's class, they call it class
We
one.
have,
It's like
we have
over 10,000.
we have reconvened as the Board of Equalization. And I'm gonna turn it over to you, Brett.
Well, we have before us again, Michael Zachmeyer, and that's the property out
Tollgate
on,
Flats.
South Tollgate Lane. And I offered him a stipulation for the fact that it wasn't as completed as we thought it would be. And, the new value would be, go from 8750 to the structure to 68,160 for a total of 110,620. So
Your recommendation, oh, it's
my
a step.
recommendation is the step to go with
Motion
the
to follow the
stipulation.
step.
And so I would just
I will
think
second the motion.
that the state law requires that the equalization office value each property at its full and true value in money, which usually is reflected in market, right? And so you're basically saying that the property is worth this and not that. And so if you don't lower it, then it's been assessed at more than its full and true value. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it's difficult to assess that when it's only partially completed, but yeah. Saying that the value is lower than what we have.
Commissioner Divers.
Well, when we take our oath on this board, it's to treat everything equal. And if we look back historically when we've had apartment buildings that are 30% complete or a house that's not complete or finished, we've always done the value of the completion, regardless of the history with the individual. It's fair and equal. So in this case, that's the best estimate we have on what's completed on this building. So that's fair and equal. So that's why I support it.
Yeah, I just have a little bit of heartburn with the history
Yep,
part.
that's right. But we got to get past that because we're
I
sitting
know.
as Board of Equalization now. And we need to treat everybody equal.
Who made the motion?
I did.
I did. You seconded it. Further discussion? Seeing none, everyone in favor of the roll call? Brenda, please.
Brandon?
Aye.
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 together now.
We had you at hello.
Bob, just so you know, he got his building permit yesterday.
All right, well,
Just
that
so you know,
sounds good.
it's bringing
Thank
it
you.
into compliance.
Thank you, Brett. Does that complete our?
So we just,
Everything.
What happened to the pot guys up in Lee?
He was good. He was good with that amount.
Well, I'm sure he was, because
Yeah.
it didn't go up any, right?
No, it still went up.
Oh, I thought you said
Yeah,
it didn't
quite a
go. I
bit.
thought we had to vote to make it go up.
So,
We're still recording.
we had, I put it up to valued about 600,000 for about 150. And we actually decided then to just maybe make it we made it at 250 instead of, so it still went up quite a bit.
Okay.
And it will again next
I
year.
heard something else.
Depends on-
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned from Board of Equalization.
Yep, he was second.
That will conclude Board of Equalization for the year.
It is over.
You don't need a second to adjourn.